There's no label, you know. There's no way of doing the thing. There's no posture, position. There's no pose that is large enough to say this is the way to do a thing, or to what represents that which we can't put inside of a box.
Yes, sir.
We love to put things in boxes. Abu Jamal will come at me for that one. But the reality is, boxes are good sometimes, but they're not good all the time. They help us make sense out of things, but we have to keep in mind when we're using boxes that these boxes do not explain the wholeness of anything. So labels have their places, and they can be utilized to articulate, to communicate, but never, ever get caught thinking that a thing is supposed to be done away. We're so used to things being done a way that we think it's the only way. I've been accused of not being spiritual. Many think, so what is the spiritual aspect? The spiritual aspect is you're right here sharing space with me. What else do you need? Dr. Henry Gregory speaks about spirituality is manifested in our relationships. I could be helping a person who's hungry. I could be working daily to help people see things more clearly. I could be helping relationships. Then someone says that you're not spiritual because you didn't do a dance, because you didn't sing a song. To me, spirituality is an energy that invokes you to bring about something better. That's just something I just made up. That's not the wholeness of spirituality. But it's that energy that helps us do things for each other, simple things. When I really study African culture and spirituality, is not a thing that we put in boxes and say we can somehow say this is what it is. However, we have in what African culture to some degree had to put it in boxes to compete with Western culture. So we've taken culture and now created and made it into spiritual systems, then subsequently into what we call religions. People say I practice Ifa. People say I practice Yoruba. They say I practice. These aren't even like religions. They're cultures. They're languages. They're different things that people now have tried to fit into the Western mode of thinking. So, what I want to do is go into the Hosea. It's been a long time. And just read a few things. Just go into my favorite book in the Hosea is the book of Ptah-hotep. And I'll start with this one. Book of Ptah-hotep, section 4, says this. It says, be diligent as long as you live, always doing more than is commanded of you. Let me say it. Be diligent as long as you live, always doing more than what is commanded of you. Do not misuse your time while following your heart, for it is offensive to the soul to waste one's time. Do not lose the daily opportunity to increase that which you have. Diligence produces gains, and gains do not endure when diligence is abandoned. Diligence. Do your homework. Do your research. Prepare. And then you'll be ready. You'll be ready. The more you prepare, the more you just look like you're ready. Like, for example, I'm confident that I can come up here and don't really have nothing for you because I know I have something for you because I prepare every day. This is not something that I don't do. This is not playground to me. This is something that I do. I prepare, I read, I study, and I think, and I feel. And I feel and I think. I connect them two together. And I'm speaking about that because it's important that we learn to connect our heart and our minds as our ancestors have taught us. But many times we're lost following either our hearts, which are heavy, or too heady, too intellectual, too one or the other. In our community, it's almost a sin to some of us to use intellect. And to somewhat to others, there is a sin to use your heart. But I would never have that argument. Creation has brought it or made it that we need both. And what we see and what we call mental illness and disorder and disease is that we're imbalanced. We're imbalanced. We don't have them connecting. We don't have the heart and the mind connecting. But if one is to call themselves spiritual, I got to deal with it. Then I expect more. If one is to call themselves spiritual, not religious, if you're spiritual, there's no reason to get caught up in petty religious or ideological ideologies.
Pretty much.
You got what I'm saying? It's no reason to get caught up in that. Because you know. But to get caught up in those arguments from an ideological standpoint is pure headiness, pure intellect. But then there's this heart that follows it. We're not really, I'm talking about from people who call themselves spiritual. Because if you're spiritual and you're this higher thinker, then what happens is you realize that others are where they are. And when you realize intellectual people hold on and believe things because that's just where they are. Your heart says, I can deal with that.